probably the chapter that we get the most compliments and the most questions on from the book Nomad Capitalist is investing overseas. People love the idea of being able to buy real estate somewhere else, oftentimes for really cheap, being able to earn a high yield, being able to have great growth potential in some of the frontier markets that we talk about. But the next question is, how do I find that real estate? And that's a really good question. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. Buying foreign real estate is definitely a different animal. I like to talk a lot here at Nomad Capitalist about the fact that when you go to another country, things are going to be different. And when you want the results to change drastically, then the things that go along with that are also going to be perhaps substantially different. Now, that's not to say that you can't go overseas and buy real estate. It means that you're going to do it differently than you do in your home country. I came from the United States, where there's Zillow and countless other sites where you can go and figure out the exact value of your house. You can go and find anything. It's at your fingertips. You have real estate agents who will take your phone call practically 24/7. They're there to serve you. When you go overseas, that's not entirely going to be the case. In fact, I would argue that there is, in most cases, an inverse relationship between the accessibility of data and the availability of professionals and the quality of the investment. Whenever I watch a TV show and I see people talking about investing in Los Angeles real estate, I cringe because it's not really an investment. It's a lifestyle purchase perhaps, but there's just not very good investment criteria there. But you can find 1,000 real estate agents in Los Angeles who will take your call day or night. Not the case in Cambodia, not the case in Georgia, not the case even in Colombia or a lot of other places. And so let me give you a couple of things that I found over 10 years of trying to and actually buying dozens of pieces of real estate overseas. The first thing is, depending on where you're going, you want to avoid the expat bubble. This is especially prevalent in Latin America, in the countries where people from the US and Canada go. So you go down to Colombia, you go to Mexico, you go to many of these countries, you've got these expat organizations that are set up to serve expats, and you think, oh, it's so easy. Surprisingly, a lot of these companies' websites don't even have that good of data. You can't even go on and figure out the purchase price of a specific property. In some cases you can, but in many cases you can't. Nevertheless, these properties are often overpriced. Turnkey investments, investments that are set up for second residence, investments sold at these offshore conferences are often always a bad deal. And so you want to be careful to avoid that. You want to go in and you want to buy as a local. Now, let's take Malaysia, for example. I bought a house in Malaysia. I spend time in Malaysia. I've lived in Malaysia as a renter in years past, and so I know how property is handled in Malaysia. In Malaysia, you have websites like iProperty, and there is a relatively transparent market. You can find a lot of properties online. The challenge is that in Malaysia, agents don't work for the seller. The seller will go out and get multiple agents. This is common in a lot of countries. They'll go out and get multiple agents to represent their property, each of whom has to try and find an edge. They'll slap up properties with extremely low prices, and when you call, oh, sorry, that one's sold. They'll slap up prices or pictures of a different property, and then you'll call, oh yeah, we've got this property, which looks suspiciously not like the one you saw in the pictures. So there's a certain amount of bait and switch going on in some of these emerging markets where you may have the ability to find properties, but those properties may not actually exist in the real world. And so if you're sitting in Topeka looking at properties in Kuala Lumpur, you may say, wow, look, we can buy this for $200,000. And then when you get there and you actually get on the ground, you're going to find that the experience is going to be different. Now, let's take it one step further to a country like Georgia. A lot of people ask me about how do I invest in Georgia? I've invested in Georgia for a long time. I've probably done more real estate deals there, not only for myself, but with other people than anywhere else in the world. Probably 50 or 60 total deals. Georgia is an entirely different animal, and I think that Georgia is relevant because it's like a lot of these small countries that have potential. What happens in Georgia? I know one good real estate agent in Georgia, period. Period. One. You can't find her. She doesn't have a website. She doesn't have anything. What is she? She's the daughter-in-law of a famous Georgian movie star who gets listings based on being well known in the community. And then she goes out and shops to a small book of business. It's all by referral. Now you can go on place.ge and you can find real estate, and you will find plenty of relatively transparent listings for development property, much of which is overpriced, or it's in areas where you just don't want to invest. It's largely a Georgian-focused market, development is. And so you're going to find properties in areas that just wouldn't appeal to you as a foreigner and probably don't have as much growth potential. Now, place.ge also has a lot of outdated listings. I went on recently, I just did a study. I talked to one of my lawyers and said, let's call 100 listings. I went through and I found 100 listings that seemed halfway decent. I said, let's call 100. Of those, about 15 were still for sale. The 85 had all been sold. Sorry, it's sold, sorry, sold, sorry, sold. Of the 15, about 5 were willing to show us the property. The other 10 had problems. Why do you want to see it? Just send me the money. Of the 5, one of those suddenly changed the price when they saw a foreigner. So we went to the 5. One of them changed the price. The other 4, the deals could be done. Okay. So 4% of the total listings, and I might be off by 1 or 2 there, but that's about what it was, actually were available. And so there is this great myth that real estate in these emerging countries works the same way it does in the US or the UK or Australia, when that's absolutely not the case. The thing that you want in any of these emerging countries is you want relationships. And again, the greater the potential in the market, the more you need a relationship, because that's part of why there's so much potential. If you could just go on a website in Cambodia and find every property and sort them by price and just, okay, here's the yield and figure it all out, and this has a tenant and that, the yields would be lower. And you know what? As Cambodia, for example, is developing, yields are going lower because prices are going up and therefore yields are being squeezed. And so part of that is you're seeing more investment from foreigners come in, partially because it's easier for them to buy. So you want to have a relationship. And this is why I like countries that aren't being overrun by lots of foreign investment, because I like to buy in very cheap and then ride the wave up. If you would have taken my advice 5 or 6 years ago and gone to Cambodia, you would have seen great increases in your property values thanks to the Chinese now coming in. And so the number one thing that you want is you want someone on the ground in these countries. You cannot buy property in any emerging or frontier country without having someone on the ground. Ideally, that person should be you, or you need to hire someone who speaks your language and understands what you want to do to go and handle it for you. Because in every market, people have their own way of doing things. Again, in Georgia, people are rarely going to negotiate on price with you. If it's a $100,000 house, they might go to $98,000. Meanwhile, in Cambodia, if they're asking $100,000 and you don't offer, in some cases, $60,000, they'll think you're the biggest sucker in the world. And so if you don't know that, then you're going to go in, okay, well, in the United States, we'd $100,000, we'd take 8% off. That's fair. Here's $92,000. They'll take your money and laugh all the way to the bank. They'll think you're the stupidest person ever. Meanwhile, in a place like Georgia, that deal's never going to get done. And so the key is, how do you find that real estate expert? Again, there aren't that many of them in some of these countries. It took me, in some cases, a couple of years of searching around, going through all the duds, panning for gold, and finally finding that one nugget that I can now use again and again and again. The person who finds the good properties, the person who finds the stuff that's reasonably priced. Because a lot of this stuff overseas is insanely priced, and they're just hoping someone's dumb enough to buy it. That's a common thing that, again, you don't find in the US. People don't list their $1 million home for $2 million because nobody would even take them seriously. But in Cambodia, they think, hey, maybe some sucker will come in and pay us double what it's worth, because nobody exactly knows what it's worth. There is no Zillow. You need to find an agent. Now, in a lot of countries, you can go and you can talk to an attorney, maybe an accountant. That's the easiest way to find them. In other cases, you just need to find someone who's kind of sorted through everybody. Sometimes it literally takes just going there and just panning for gold. So if this is a topic you are interested in, I'd like to consider talking about this more. Leave a comment below. Leave your experiences. If you have done this yourself, maybe you've gone to one of these countries, maybe you've bought something, maybe you've tried to and failed. I want to know your experience. I want to know, is this of interest to you? Are you looking to buy real estate overseas? And what are your expectations? Leave a comment below. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.